So are you a morning coffee drinker?
Not necessarily daily, it's just hit and miss.
When you get up, what do you have breakfast or?
I'm a big Frosted Mini Wheats fan.
Really?
Yeah.
Every morning?
About every other morning. Really? I don't always eat breakfast, but
yeah,
when I do, Frosted Mini Wheats is my jam, yeah.
When did you start that?
When my kids started eating. I realized I forgot how much I've missing this since I was 8 years old. So
yeah. I'm more of a Lucky Charms guy if I'm going to go sweet cereal.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Lucky Charms. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Now, sometimes I'll just skip breakfast completely. I mean, but I'm a night eater. So, do you do that?
Oh, yeah.
Do you get up in the middle of the night?
Not in the middle of the night, but it's late.
Yeah.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I got to have a snack.
Kind of a second dinner.
Right.
Yeah. So, I'll eat dinner, and then I like to get a little snort of peanut butter, before I go to bed, just straight out of the jar.
That kind of itches the sweet craving.
Yeah. I like to do a tall glass of sweet milk.
Big tablespoon of peanut butter and some milk.
Yeah. Yeah. Tall glass of sweet milk and then go to bed. And then for whatever reason, around 1, 2 a.m., it's called NES. It's a diagnosed condition.
Oh, is that right?
Night eating syndrome. Yeah. NES.
Oh, no, I didn't.
And so have you ever had a perfect bar? Have you ever heard of those?
No.
Yeah, don't try them. But I think you can get them at Walmart and stuff like that. But they've got chocolate chip and peanut butter and all that. And so I like to get up and have about half of a perfect bar, and whatever is in the refrigerator, whether that be milk or grape juice or whatever. So, but of course we didn't come here to talk about breakfast food. But
it's a fine topic for me.
It's a Bible. It's a Bible.
Very important to me.
All right, when I think about one of the first things I think about when I think about your athletic career is, I mean, it was, I feel like, going from 10th grade to 12th grade, that it was very intentional on your part to try to really, really get bigger and grow. And your growth from 10th to 12th really is one of the most impressive things to me about your career. So tell me kind of how all that happened.
Well, you're right. It was very intentional. Because as you remember, I believe when I was a freshman at Walker, I was 6'4", 6'5", like 145 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's pretty gangly, long, lanky. Not really looking like a football player, even a basketball or any really kind of athlete. But I played a lot of sports. So I grew up playing baseball, and then I started in football, and then I started playing basketball in middle school, and then I got on in high school track. So I'm doing a lot of different things, and so there was never really any focus. We had a weight program, but when you're playing all these sports, it's like you never really get weeks upon weeks of building,
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit of a challenge as far as trying to get bigger. And so, but it didn't mean I didn't quit, did not work at it.
Yeah.
But, I had this knee injury my junior year. And, at that point it was like, clearly football is, if I got an opportunity to continue playing, it's going to be there. Mm-hmm. So I kind of zeroed in on trying to make sure I could get back for that, my senior year. And, so I kind of had to drop all the other stuff. And that's when I really started to mature physically.
Yeah.
Because I had all those months, spring, all summer, in the weight room and, working out and really trying to, intentionally bulk up.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it hasn't stopped.
I was 185 when I graduated high school. Of course, I was 16, when I graduated, but I could not gain weight. Like, I just remember I would drink those, like, my dad would make me drink those, like, 32-ounce Joe Weider shakes at night, and that was how, I would eat 5 meals a day, but then I would drink those Joe Weider shakes.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put on weight. So for you, did you have to do stuff like that?
Oh yeah. The protein shakes, we had it, by the big gigantic jugs.
Right.
And then, my mom, she stumbled onto these, it's a real nutritional secret. carried by Walmart called a pork chop sandwich, and they had like 900 calories apiece. So she found these, and all of a sudden I come home and the refrigerator stocked with these pork chop sandwiches, and I would just, I'd eat them all the time. Yeah, delicious, by the way. But Bonnie Redmill wasn't a doctor of nutrition by any, but it seemed to like do the trick.
Yeah. Now, how many meals did you eat at Walker High School and how much did you spend? I remember I would eat 2 meals, and then I spent, back in the day, this has been like circa 93, I would have spent probably $350 on lunch. What about you?
Oh, it was two lunches every day.
Yeah.
And the first thing I did at Walker was I befriended all the lunchroom ladies.
Right.
And so, they, and one or two of them might have gone to church with us. And so they were always looking out for me. But, I'm buying 2. And I don't know where else you can eat like that for $3.50. But, I never carried my lunch to school one day in my life.
No, never.
I looked forward to that lunchroom every day and doubled down on it. And then, even after I doubled down, I've got the lunch ladies kicking me an extra pack of chicken fingers.
Yeah, a little extra scoop of potatoes, mashed potatoes with the butter on it.
Oh, yeah.
No gravy,
Can't always say no gravy, but definitely an extra roll in there. But they were looking out for me.
Yeah. Stop sign pizza, Crispitos. I don't know if you remember those.
I do remember the Crispitos. Yeah. I was always a Crispito fan. Probably haven't had one since 1996, but I ate a lot between 1992 and 1996. Yeah.
That was a good era for Crispitos.
Yeah, it was, definitely.
And the chicken fingers, one story that you'll find amusing, my best friend was Matthew Freeman in high school. He's still my best friend, but he actually choked on a chicken finger in the downstairs cafeteria, and we almost lost him. And it was one of the more humorous, things that happened at Walker High School, but we almost lost Matthew to one of those chicken fingers. So
that would have been a terrible mark on the Walker High School lunchroom.
That's right.
If that would have went down there.
Another thing that's impressive is, Danny Gambrell was the head coach at Walker after David Campbell, and then the next guy to come along was Chris Yeager, and he was kind of your first high school football coach. And I just remember I didn't play football for whatever reason. I played basketball and ran cross country in the fall, but I just remember how hard people were talking about that Coach Yeager was, and the thing was, well, he's got kind of a college mentality, and coming into this high school program, and but he's gone on to have tremendous success at Mountain Brook. So what was your perception of the way he coached?
Well, I love playing for Coach Yeager. He was hard. I think, a lot of those guys that were upperclassmen had played for Coach Gambrell, and Coach Gambrell was a more loose style, coaching. But and Coach Yeager came in, and it was sort of militant, It was he required an element of toughness and commitment that I think a lot of folks at Walker probably hadn't been accustomed to. He was very young. I think he came from West Blanton, which was his first head job, and he was only there a couple of years. So he was very, very young, mid-20s, something like that. And it was very much a college kind of mentality.
So that's a fair assessment.
No doubt, no doubt. And, looking back, I had the opportunity to play in college, so I got to see that side of it for real. And I think that was probably a learning experience for him, because it's a lot easier to do that when you're at the college level, because you, at least during my time, it's a little bit different today. Circumstances have changed, but you've kind of got something to hold over these guys' heads. You got a scholarship and 3 hots in the cot and something they need. And you try to do it at the high school level when you don't really have anything. Yeah. And I hate to say it like that, hold over their head, but that's the fact of the matter. Yeah. If you want to have a high school football program, you got to have these kids out. And so if you don't have an environment that keeps them coming out, it can be hard to build a team. And we were pretty thin roster those couple of years. I think we dressed 32 guys and 38 guys the next year. So that made it a challenge for us to compete in 6A football.
And I get that too, man. I mean, like, I look back and my coaching career was very short-lived. I mean, I think I coached a total of like 7 years, but I think you get more comfortable as you get older. When you're young, there's just not a whole lot of separation between you and the players, and you feel like you've got to come in kind of hard and establish discipline and you want to establish that level of respect. And I kind of get that. And then as you get older, you settle in, you become more comfortable, more confident in what you're doing. It seems like Coach Yeager's definitely doing that now. But, it's interesting how people can view, coaches a different way. I mean, some people, what I tell people is about half the people like the coach, the ones that play.
Right.
And then the other half don't really like them. It's kind of like being in politics.
Right. Yeah, I think for him, I think that was probably a big learning experience for him. I don't want to speak for Coach Yeager, and I've never even had this conversation with him, but just looking back, and then of course he left Walker, and he coached for Joey Jones for I don't remember how many years it was before Joey retired, but I think he probably got to see it from a different perspective during his time under Joey.
Yeah.
And then you look at the success he had after Joey moved on, and Coach Yeager took over, and it's yielded a much different result for him.
Yeah.
In terms of success on the field, and so yeah, I think he probably learned a lot from that experience.
One of the guys that really has become an absolute legend in Walker High School athletics is Coach Bubba Davis, and we were doing the lead sports show for a while there that you interviewed with, and we had Coach Davis come over from Mississippi, and I had remembered him, because I guess I was in college when he was coming through and at Walker, and I didn't realize how much he kind of needles you and messes with you, but he's also for you, and so I'd like to know a little bit more about your relationship with him, and what are the things about him that made him a great coach?
Well, yeah, I love Bubba Davis. He came in, I guess it would have been late in the spring semester, my junior year as a new coach, and he came in with like this lore about him.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know who he was. He'd been coaching in Mississippi his entire career, won 3 state championships over there. All we knew is, this big dog from Mississippi is coming in. He's going to save our program. And so he kind of came in with this air about him. And then when you meet him, you felt like you were meeting John Wayne, like in real life. I mean, and he didn't have to do anything to earn your respect. It's just an air about him,
A confidence.
A confidence. You knew he knew what he was doing. He had several key guys come with him that he had history with, and they all kind of carried that same air about them.
Yeah.
And it was just, you knew when they got to Walker, there was probably the makings of something special going to happen. And he spent some time right out of the gate getting to know each individual guy. And like I said, there wasn't very many of us coming back. I mean, it was a small nucleus of guys. Yeah. But that small nucleus, we'd gone through 2 pretty tough years, not just tough in terms of wins and losses, but what we'd been through. Like we were talking about, it was kind of nearly a militant kind of atmosphere, which a lot of guys weren't willing to go through that to win 3 ball games or 2 ball games, and so we had a really tough nucleus of guys, and we felt like all right, so all this work we put in for 2 years, this guy's going to be the guy to help us put it together, and he also understood the importance of high school football. And this is about the school, this is about the kids, it's about the community. And he just knew how to kind of put all that together. And, before you know it, we're approaching our first spring practice, and we've got like 80 guys, 85 guys. And he was in the halls of Walker High School every day,
working it,
meeting these kids, and you couldn't help but just gravitate to him. On one hand, I wouldn't say he was intimidating, but he had a intimidating air about him, and so I think he would just see a kid in the hallway that he thought looked like a kid that should be playing football, and he would just son, why are you not out here?
Yeah.
And then this kid's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, kind of looking down at you. You're like, yeah.
You know, and that was the difference between him and Coach Jaeger, because Coach Jaeger wasn't asking anybody to come play.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You know, if you want to be a part of this, then, you know where we're at. Yeah. But Coach Davis knew the value in, or understood the value in getting, you know, the numbers of kids out. Yeah. And my dad always tells this story. You know, they had a parents meeting or a booster club meeting early on. Coach Davis first got there, and he said, there's one thing I can tell you is every Friday night we're going to play 60 to 65 kids. One way or another, there's going to be 65 kids getting the ball game. And so he thought it was important to get the kids out. You know, kids that maybe they need organized sports, you know, because they needed something to give them some direction from a discipline standpoint. And, you know, not everybody has to come out and be the starting quarterback or the starting running back. But, you know, we got to have 11 guys on kickoff cover, you know, punt return, extra point. And so he understood the value of not only getting the guys out, but making sure you find an opportunity for them to contribute. Yeah. And, you know, I think that was a different mentality, because, you know, previously having such a small roster, we had 11 guys that probably played both ways. Yeah. And even though we only had 38 out, you know, there was guys that never got in the game. So it was a little bit different, in terms of, mentality, but I think it went a long way to just kind of build the camaraderie of that team.
I was going to say that because you guys have stayed in touch. I mean, y'all have like little reunions and things like that. I mean, some of those guys, y'all still get together.
We haven't had a reunion. It's probably been 5 or 6 years, but I do talk to Coach Davis pretty frequently. You know, he'll actually text now. Which is fun. It's usually 1 or 2 word responses. But if I need him, I speak with phone and calling.
How's the punctuation? Is it
non-existent? Not necessary.
It's stream of consciousness.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So if I need him, I pick up the phone and call him, or vice versa. But you know, his daughter Jama is she's in Huntsville with her children. So I got to know Jama really more so during my time in Alabama. She was a year ahead of me. And so got to know her my senior year at high school, but then, you know, our circles kind of overlap while we were in Alabama. Yeah. So she keeps me plugged into what's going on with him. Yeah. And, but otherwise we communicate, and we talk a good bit.
It's funny that I never met her while I was at Alabama. I mean, she must have been at the library or something, because our paths never crossed there. So I want to talk about your recruiting for just a minute, because you almost went to Ole Miss. I mean, think about this. You could have played for the future governor of Alabama. I mean, you thought about that?
I have thought about that. Yeah. But, you know, I probably wouldn't have played for him for very long, because it wasn't very long that he bolted and left for Auburn. Right. So, you know, I wanted to go to Alabama from day one. As a child, that was, you know, we grew up Alabama fans. My mom graduated from Alabama. And we grew up going to ball games, and so that was, you know, if that were something that were going to work out for me, that was the ideal situation. But you know, sometimes things don't go exactly like you thought, like you think they're going to go. And Alabama had been hammered by probation, and I can remember it vividly. I was at the beach with Scott Thornley and his family, and so this would have been, I guess, the summer before my either junior or senior year. I don't remember exactly which. But we're coming back from the beach, and they've got on Sports Talk Radio, and the NCAA had just come out with their ruling on whatever they were investigating us for, and it's, you know, the worst penalty anybody's ever received, and so it's gonna knock the next 2 recruiting classes down in terms of scholarship limitations. You know, the next class was only going to have 13, and then the following class was only going to have 12 instead of 25 scholarships. And so that class of 12 would be my class. And I can remember sitting in the back seat of Scott's parents' car on the way back, and I thought, man, this has changed everything. You know, like, they were recruiting me at the time, but you know, we didn't have a star ranking system back then. But if we did, you know, I wasn't a 5-star, I wasn't a 4-star. I mean, I'm the guy that's scratching and clawing and trying to create an opportunity to create a pathway for me to get there. And I just remember thinking on that car ride home, this just got a lot longer of a long shot than it was before. So as the recruiting unfolds, Alabama never stopped recruiting me. But other schools started to pick up, and I think part of that was Alabama's continued recruitment of me, and other schools. Well, maybe we need to take a look at this kid. So some other stuff started happening with Ole Miss and Mississippi State and LSU, and eventually Auburn. But I took a visit to Ole Miss, an official visit, and I loved it. And I liked Coach Tuberville, and I liked Coach Null. And a guy named Terry Price, who's defensive line coach. And I was playing defensive line. That's what I played at Walker primarily. And Terry Price, he was with Tuberville for years and years and years on various staffs as they moved around. And he was a first year on the field assistant. He was a young guy. He had just come out of the NFL.
Now let me hold up just a second. You were playing defense at this time, right? So you were getting recruited as a defensive lineman, correct?
Primarily, yes. But Ole Miss, Coach Jones told me, he said, we're going to plan to play you on offensive line. That's where we see your future. And so they were really the only SEC school that told me that, or that said that to me. Now, all the others would say, talking about their competition recruiting, they're going to move you to offensive line, like it was going to be like I was going to weigh that into my, I really didn't care. I didn't understand why they'd want to play me on offensive line, considering I never played it at the high school level. But I just wanted an opportunity to play. I want to play college football, and but they were the only ones that came out and said, we think you're going to be an offensive lineman, and that's fine, But anyway, it worked out in the end, and that was kind of the first year I can remember these kids flip flopping. The term flip flop became a household name. These high profile recruits, and they commit here, and historically, you make that commitment, well, that's where you're going. It doesn't matter what transpires for the rest of the recruiting process. Once you make that verbal commitment, it's kind of what it is. And all of a sudden you've got this rash of kids that are, they make a commitment, and then, who knows what convinces them to change their mind, but then now they're going to Tennessee. And so they had a full 12 scholarship recruiting roster, pretty much sealed and done, but Randy Ross is still calling me. And, once they had all 12 spots filled, I just said, well, okay, I got to figure out what I want to do next. And that's where Ole Miss kind of came into the picture. And took a visit there, and I was ready to commit, on my visit. And Coach Tuberville said, just calm down. Just go home, talk to your parents. You might want to talk to your parents about this before you do something, like that. But just, take a day or two, think about it.
So if he wouldn't have stopped you, you might have committed.
Well, I did. I ultimately committed. We got home, we talked it through, and, I'm talking with my mom and dad, and Coach Davis was involved, and we just didn't think it was going to work out in Alabama, numbers wise. And I said, well, if I can't go there, this would be a great
option
for me, And I really liked it. And of course, they had new facilities at the time. They were one of the first, when the arms race of facilities started. And but looking back at what they had now, it's so ridiculous compared to what all the schools have now. Yeah. But then it was a shiny new toy, and it was cool and neat, and Oxford was a great place. And so I committed, and I was ready to go. I'm a rebel. It was probably, I don't know, less than a week, 4 or 5 days later, and Randy Ross, who was the recruiting coordinator for years at Alabama, he calls me, and like, why is Coach Ross calling me? And
this is on the landline, right?
On the landline. Yeah.
Did you have the caller ID that came up, or did you just recognize the number? Or was there even caller ID back then?
I think we had caller ID, but I don't know that I knew who it was.
Yeah. Okay. Just trying to get the details.
At this point, these guys were calling, and they all kind of called in the afternoon or the evening. So it wasn't, it was one of these coaches calling, most likely at this point in time. But, and I said, well, Coach, I've committed to Ole Miss, and I don't know whether he knew that or not. Oh, that's great. That's great. Hey, you hang on to that. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Hey, you just hang on to that. You're doing a great job. I'll talk to you in a day or so. I said, no, Coach, I don't I don't need to talk. I mean, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, Griff, you're doing great.
Right, Griff, right, Griff.
So he calls me a couple of days later. And why is he calling me again? And he wants to know what I'm doing that day. And I had just had this ACL reconstruction knee surgery, and I had a doctor's visit at Dr. Lee Mack's office in Birmingham for a recheck. And I said, well, I've got this doctor's appointment I can't miss. And he goes, great, I'll meet you there. I'm going to be in Birmingham anyway. Coach, why are you going to meet me there? Like, what are we doing here? I'm going to Ole Miss. He goes, that's fine. I'll see you there. What time's your appointment? And so I show up at Dr. Lee Mack's office, and there's Coach Ross in the waiting room. And I can't remember if it was before or after my appointment, but we get over there and we kind of sit off in the corner, and he's got a notepad, and he's scratching out the, all the guys on the defensive line and the player rotation. And he's like, so I really think you can, right here, I think you'll fit in right here in this spot, which is in the regular game rotation, and you can be a contributor next year. And Coach, what are we doing? And so he kind of elaborates. He says, look, you've been following this. We've got, I think out of 12 guys, I think they had 5 defensive linemen committed, and we had some big names. Mm-hmm. Michael Myers was coming from, he was a parade All-American JUCO. We had Heath Panks, who was a parade All-American JUCO. Then you had a guy named Kenny Smith from North Jackson, who was a high school All-American. Not the Kenny Smith that I actually ended up playing with in Alabama from Meridian, Mississippi, but, and Kenny, and there's another guy named, his name escapes me, but he was from Georgia. He went on to play for the Green Bay Packers. But Kenny and this kid from Georgia were the 2 big high school names. And Kenny, it just depends on what day of the week where he was going. He'd committed to Alabama, then he's going to Tennessee, then he's going to wherever. And the kid from Georgia, I guess, was questionable about qualifying. And so Coach Ross says, Coach Stallings, we had a staff meeting, and Coach Stallings is really fed up with all this. And he asked us, he goes, bring me a guy that wants to play for Alabama. Mm-hmm. And Coach Ross said, I got your guy. And that's why we're here today. And so he said, I can't tell you for sure right now, but I'm 98% sure something's going to change in the next day or two. I said, well, okay. And I didn't really know what to think about that. And so I leave that doctor's appointment, and I'm conflicted. I'm kind of torn up by it, because I'm thinking, well, now I've pledged my commitment to Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. And
now you're a flip-flopper.
Yeah, I don't want to be a flip-flopper.
Yeah, right.
And a couple of days later, Coach Stallings calls Walker High School, and of course I wasn't at school that day, and I guess they tried to page me, and somebody comes back to the phone and says, well, he's not here today, Coach. And Coach Stallings says, well, does his mother teach there? And yes, sir. Well, put her on the phone. So they go and get my mom, and he tells her, hey, we've got a scholarship. We'd like Griff to come play for us, in Tuscaloosa. And she pretty much says, sounds great. He'll be there, Coach. Click. Hang up the phone.
Commits for you.
Commits for me. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even get the pleasure of
the Bonnie verbal commit.
Yeah.
But you were okay with Bonnie committing you. I mean, that was no problem. I mean, what did you say to her after she accepted?
Oh, I was fine with it. I didn't even think much about it at the time. Matter of fact, when I got home that afternoon, I don't even think it was the first thing she brought up.
Yeah.
It was kind of like later. Oh, by the way.
Yeah, slow walked it a little bit.
Yeah. And I didn't believe her, to be honest. I said, are you sure you got this right? It's just, you got to know my mom. Sometimes she's got all the details.
Stallings called right.
Oh, yeah. And he offered a scholarship to you for me on the phone.
The school right.
And she's like, no, that's how it went. I'm telling you. So I called Coach Ross. And I said, and he's like, hey, Griff, how's it going? I said, hey, my mom is saying that she had this conversation with Coach Stallings today. And he was like, yeah, man, it's really happening.
Yeah.
And I can't, it's been so long now, I can't remember exactly where in the timeline this happened, but I guess I had a conversation with Coach Stallings. I somewhere along the way, I'd expressed to him my concern. I'm worried about my own, people's perception of it, but I'm also worried about my dad, and being a flip flopper, and Coach Stallings somewhere along the line calls Dad, I think called. My dad worked for Drummond Coal Company, the Shoal Creek Mine. I think he called down to the mines and has a conversation with my dad.
Stallings was aggressive on the phone back then.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, but he understood all these dynamics too, dealing with kids and parents.
Right.
And so, but he knew it was important to me for all my people to be in alignment and to be okay with this. And so, Dad ultimately said, hey, listen, Coach, commitment, you commit yourself to a cause or to an organization, it's important to honor your commitments, but also this is Griff's life. This is his dream. And, if this is what he wants to do and the circumstances have changed, sometimes circumstances do change. And that means, the way you're going to go about it and go take it, you've got to change.
So your dad was okay with it?
So, but Dad was totally fine with it. I mean, he was so fine with it. I couldn't believe how big a deal I'd made about it in my mind.
I mean, that's a great point, man. I mean, you want to be a man of your word. I mean, you do. I mean, I know that's what your dad would teach you, but it's, the circumstances change, and it's Alabama, and it's your life.
Right, and at the end of it, he wanted me to go to Alabama worse than anybody. Yeah. So I mean, it was probably, it's probably pretty easy to get okay with that, with that line of thinking once it became a reality. Yeah.
So you get to Alabama in a very difficult time. Mm-hmm. I mean, here we are in 2025, and we're on the back end of the greatest run in Alabama football history. I mean, but you go back to 1996, 97, and it's an entirely different culture. So walk us through your first experiences there. I know I think it was Coach Dubose that suggested that you go to O-Line, right?
It was.
And so, just kind of paint us a picture of that 96, 90. You got there in 97, right?
96.
96, okay.
Fall of 96.
So fall of 96. So you're still under Stallings. Then in 97, you go under Dubose. So just paint us a picture of what life was like for you then.
So I'll walk on campus at 1996, and it was still very much. You're still in the early shadows of a national championship. From '92. Just the gravity of what that brings to a program. There were guys on that team that were on the 92 championship team. And so that was a big deal. You feel like you're walking into a championship culture. But we were on this, we were the second signing class in this probationary period. So you got to feel that there's a wind of change coming because, probation, it's
wind of change, not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
Okay.
Not knowing anything about anything as an 18-year-old walking into the situation, you're looking at it and you think, okay, we've got half as many guys in this signing class as everybody else in the country. The class ahead of me's got half as many guys. Now, these guys on the top end, the guys that are third, fourth, fifth year guys, those are high caliber signing classes that are still here. But what's this going to look like 12 months down the road, 24 months down the road? And, as we kind of work our way through it, I'm playing defensive line. I redshirt. Coach Stallings is the head coach my first year, but Mike Dubose was my position coach. And so I'm going to work every day, trying to improve, trying to get better, trying to figure out where my place is on the team. It was an interesting experience for me because there were a lot of these guys that I played with that they were 4- and 5-star recruits. And so they were a little bit more accustomed to being kind of a star-studded atmosphere. For me, it was pretty intimidating because I kind of felt like I was the underdog who'd found a way to scratch and claw and find this opportunity. So a lot of that first year or two was me trying to just improve as a player, but just gain confidence that I belonged here.
Kind of get your bearings a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
We showed up. Back then you had, when the freshmen reported, you had freshman practice the first 3 days. And so you can imagine what a freshman practice looks like with 12 guys on the football field. We couldn't even, it's not like you can do organized team drills. There's only 12 of you. 5 of them are defenders and the rest are offensive guys. So It was an interesting 3 days, and the varsity comes out the first day of full varsity practice, and I think we were in headgears, and it was the most violent situation I'd ever been a part of, without any pads on. And I thought, what have I gotten myself into? I don't know that I can do this every day for 5 years. So it was an eye-opening experience, and but you eventually acclimate. Either you acclimate or you go home.
Yeah. Now, did y'all do like gassers and 110s and mat drills and all that kind of stuff? Did y'all go to the lower gym? Is that
lower gym? Yeah. You don't get introduced to that till the the off season. So now it's a little different. The kids show up a semester early, and their last semester of high school. Almost all these kids are coming to campus, so they'll go through that before they ever practice football. But back then, we show up, as freshmen when it's time to report for camp, and you're kind of thrown into the hot water, and you just kind of survive that first year. Then you get into the off-season program, and the lower gym program has been going on there since Bear Bryant, and it's everything that everybody advertises it to be. It's pretty terrible, but if you can make it through that, you can make it through about anything, and it really does. Build mental toughness, physical toughness, and endurance, and kind of get you ready to, take the next step as an athlete, both mentally and physically.
Do they still do like mat drills and stuff like that? Back then, did they?
Oh yeah, we did mat drills, every kind of agility drill you can imagine. They had it. They didn't actually have it in the lower gym anymore. That lower gym still exists, and I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago at the university. And you need to go there and see that. I've never been in there. We did it in the indoor practice facilities where we did it. And so you walk in, it's 5 a.m. on a Monday morning, and you see all these stations set up, and it's just 12 stations of torture, basically. And all the on the field assistants were there. All the
here's the torture rack. We're going to put you.
And like
there's the electrocution chamber.
You've heard the stories and they're true. There's garbage cans all around.
Yeah.
And because you don't want to ruin the AstroTurf, so
with the upchuck,
it's everything that I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And and you cap it off. You mentioned gassers and 110s. You're in there for whatever you were, an hour and a half of just as much physical exertion as you can imagine. You get to the last drill, and it's okay. And we're going to cap it off with 5 gassers.
Yeah,
It's like I don't know that I could have ran 5 gassers before all this.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an exercise in mental and physical toughness.
There's something to be said about pushing your physical limitations, though, man. I mean, there's like that's what I love about sports, and maybe not love, but I mean, like that was one of the neat things is like going further than you think you could go. Like pushing that, because it's a battle of your mind at that point. I mean, you're just like, I don't know if I can go on, and then a coach can push you to go just a little bit further, and man, you can kind of take that into life. That like, hey, I'm just, in my marriage, I'm having a hard time, and I don't know if I could make it, and now, but you can go farther and longer than you think you're going to.
Yeah. You always got a little bit more left in the tank than you really think you do.
Yeah, you do. You do. I love that physical endurance aspect of it. What was Dubose like as a position coach?
Very tough. He was. He had a reputation for being extremely tough. Out of all the positions, everybody on the team knew that the defensive line had it the hardest, and we were on the field 30 minutes before everybody else, and we were off the field 30 minutes after everybody else. And he took pride in that, as we're going to be the toughest group, and we're going to be the core of that team. If you think back during those times, we had some great defensive lines. Just some studs that went on and played in the NFL and were the cornerstone of some of those great Stallings teams. And but he was a fantastic defensive line coach. But he was a tough individual to play for.
Mm-hmm. What about Stallings? What was he like as a coach?
Well, I think everybody, Coach Stallings is what everybody knows him to be. He's tough. You felt like it was a spawn of Bear Bryant to some degree.
Yeah.
There's probably more compassion there from Coach Stallings than you got from Bear Bryant.
Yeah.
He'd been doing it so long. He knew what it took to win. He knew what kind of guys he wanted to build out a team. And he was one that is very similar to Bubba Davis. Whether he wasn't a big rah-rah guy, but you knew he knew what he was doing and you didn't want to disappoint him.
This is so random. This thought just came in my head. There was something about, and this might not have been during your era, but it might have been. Something happened in like at Arkansas where there were some like stakes got messed up. Do you have any recollection of this?
Oh yeah,
y'all were at a hotel.
This was later. This was after Stallings. This was maybe 1998.
Was this Dubose?
It was under Dubose, and we pretty much got food poisoning at the team hotel.
Tell me, I'm totally butchering this story, but
so you have kind of the same routine on game weekends, whether you're home or away. Even at home, we stay in a hotel Friday night, so everything revolves around the team hotel. So if you're on the road, you fly in Friday midday, you go to the hotel. Go to the stadium, do a walkthrough, and you go back to the hotel, and then everything's kind of revolving around the hotel. So you have meetings, you have team meal, which is what everybody looks forward to on Friday night because it's an embarrassment of riches at the Friday night team meal. So it's the same every Friday night.
Still going on now. I mean,
I'm sure it's different. Nutritionally, they've come a millennial light year in the way they feed these kids. But in 1997, 98, 99, it was volume in terms of food. Right. So you come into team meal and it's like everybody has a steak.
Just carve it up.
Everybody has as much chicken as they want. There's a gigantic bowl of spaghetti in the middle of the table, gigantic bowl of salad, gigantic vat of ranch dressing. And everybody can't wait for this. And so we're at Arkansas, and everybody's challenged.
No, was this at Fayetteville?
This was in Fayetteville.
Okay, go ahead.
Which is a tough trip first anyway, back during this time, because you couldn't fly 747 into Fayetteville. So, you had to fly into Tulsa, get on a bus, drive 2.5, 3 hours. So it's a bit of a trek to get there. It's a little. So we get there, everybody's excited for the team meal, and we're chowing down, and everybody had this feeling that something's wrong with this food. But nobody stops eating it because it's not like, we couldn't just go upstairs and call room service, this is the dinner.
Right.
So yeah, something's wrong, but we're going to eat it. Well, I don't know how many guys got sick. I mean, it was, I guess we had food poisoning. No, nobody ever, really diagnosed that, but we had a lot of guys sick the next morning. We feel it was by design.
And what was Coach Dubose's response to that?
Got to play. We got to go. I mean, we didn't even talk about it. I mean, we were complaining about it,
Well, I heard there were some choice words for the chef. Is that?
I wouldn't party to that.
Okay.
When you're away like that, I don't even know that we never even saw those people. You're just at the hotel. We're in the dining room area. The food's coming out, and then we eat, and then we're off. Usually went to the movies after that. So we take off. I'm sure, and I don't know that we knew we were sick. Nobody knew we were sick till the next morning. And so I'm sure somebody caught some grief somewhere. But
was that a loss? Did y'all
I can't remember. I can't remember the score, but we got beat pretty good, and we were.
That wasn't the 42-6 game, was it?
It might have been. Some of those run together with Arkansas because. We'd win one, and then the next year, they'd blow us out. But we got beat pretty badly. But we had guys just kind of clinging to life out there, trying to get. Nobody was operating at 100%. They were just trying to get through.
Yeah. And then after Coach Dubose became the head coach, I think Neil Callaway was your offensive line coach. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Coach Dubose took over. He got the job. At the end of that fall. So we're going into the spring semester, and he had been assembling his staff, and he brings in Coach Callaway, who played with him at Bama. I believe they were roommates. They both went way back, and I believe it was the first lower gym workout of the off season. And Coach Dubose and Coach Callaway called me off to the side before we even get started. And I thought, what is it? I mean, at this point, the coaches aren't even talking to a guy like me, one-on-one. And so I thought I must be in trouble or something. But Coach Dubose said, hey, he introduced me to Coach Callaway. And he said, hey, would you consider moving to offensive line? I said, well, I mean, I'll consider anything you tell me to consider, you know. And I said, I just want to play. And so they both said, well, we feel like Coach Dubose said, I know you can play defensive line. He said, you know, you've been playing that all year long. I feel like you can contribute this year. I would be a redshirt freshman. He said, but I think you can contribute in a much bigger, more impactful way by making this move. And you know, looking back, I mean, I was thrilled to hear that. You know, all I wanted to do was find a way to get on the field and contribute. So I was excited by the fact that they were thinking about me when they were thinking about you know, guys that were going to potentially play a key role on the team. And I said, I'll do whatever you guys need me to do or want me to do. And looking back, you know, it was probably more of a they're evaluating our numbers, because now we're another year into this. So you're getting to the core of your team is kind of built around these two signing classes that have 12 and 13 signees respectively. So they're probably trying to figure out, you know, we got to spread the guys around where we can and key positions. And you know, I probably benefited from our number situation. And so they moved me over there doing spring training, and walking into that, we had a guy named Bubba Ray who played right tackle the previous year. He was a senior, so he's graduated. So kind of the way it was spun to me is, you know, we think you know, that right tackle spot, you know, might be a good landing spot for you. So I kind of think, oh, I may have a chance to start next year at right tackle. And so we come out for the first day of spring ball, and the depth chart's posted, and I'm at left tackle behind Chris Samuels, who's, you know, multi-time All-American,
right.
third. And I thought, well, this isn't the conversation that we thought we had, but it didn't really matter, because that was being a little naive on my part, thinking I'm going to walk in and play right tackle, never having taken a snap in high school on the offensive line. Yeah. So it was a good experience. I went through spring playing left tackle, and then it came into fall camp, still backing up Chris. Got to play the first 2 or 3 games, a good bit at left tackle, and then I get a call going into the Arkansas game from Coach Callaway on like Tuesday or Wednesday of game week, and he calls me into his office. Again, I assume I'm in trouble, but you know, we were off to a rocky start in '97, and he says, we're going to start you at guard Saturday. And I said, this Saturday? And people that haven't really played don't really understand this, but I just started playing left tackle. I mean, I don't even know all the play calls. You know, I don't even know all the plays necessarily. You know, I'm just still figuring this out. And now they're telling me they're going to start me at a different position, which everybody thinks is all the same, but they got their guard and center got their whole set of their own different calls. So it was a little overwhelming, but it happened that way. They were trying to send a message to the two guys. You know, they started Will Cuthbert, who was a true freshman, moved him from back at right tackle to starting at right guard. So we had 3 freshmen start the Arkansas game. Myself at left guard, Paul Hogan, who was already the starting center, and then Will Cuthbert at right guard. And of course, we got beat. But, you know, looking back, it didn't go as badly as I feared it would, being as new to the position as I was.
So school me on offensive line. I know I never played football. Sadly, never did.
You should have.
Yeah. A great tight end.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But I don't understand the complexities of it. My son's playing flag football right now, and you know, I help out a little bit, you know, just kind of on the sidelines, just barely. But I don't understand the nuances and complexities of the game, and I would like to know more about O-line. I mean, what's the difference in those positions? I mean, like, you know, how does somebody, you know, I'm a good fit for left tackle or left guard, or, you know, how does somebody kind of figure out where they fit in those slots. What are the differences between those positions? Obviously, center has its own responsibility,
Right.
but just the guard and tackle positions. What are the complexities of those positions?
Well, I think most importantly, it's hard to say the center is the most important position, but the center is almost like the quarterback of the offensive line. He's got to be a guy that's got the mental capacity he's got to understand the entire scheme. He's got to understand every position in their blocking schemes, and he's got to understand. He's got to be smart enough to understand the defensive fronts and recognize them quickly, because when those things change, our blocking schemes change. And so somebody has got to be the point man for that. And so not just anybody's suited for that position. I mean, you got to be a more intelligent type player. You got to be a leader, and you got to be somebody that can kind of take charge of a situation and make a snap decision like that. Because if you leave it up to, five guys to individually recognize it, you're going to wind up with five guys making five different play calls, and it's going to be a train wreck.
Is that kind of inherently the most difficult position or challenging position, just because you've got to think about so many things? You've got to snap the ball, and then you've got to block.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it is. I mean, I played center as well. I was the backup center. So, I got to get a little taste of that. It's a lot of pressure, especially if you're not doing it on an every down by down basis and you get thrown into the situation. You get a firsthand account of exactly how difficult it is, just from a mental standpoint. But the physical aspects there, because you got to be able to process all that and then still execute your job and your assignment. From there, the left tackle position, it's, some people are going to argue that's the most important position because it's the most critical to protecting the quarterback. So that guy, he's going to face the most athletic defenders, whether it be edge rushers, whether it be blitzing, cornerbacks. You got to have a guy that's got enough athletic ability to take on somebody that's vastly superior athletically to him. So those guys are generally, they're going to be taller, leaner, quicker, because they got to be able to block much faster defenders coming off the edge, and they got to have that reaction. Guard. It's not that they're less important, but they're somewhere in between. There's a lot of stuff happening in the inside part of the defense when you have movement from the linebackers, and so they've all got a little bit different skill set. Guard and center are going to be a little more similar in terms of the type player. But at those spots, you don't have to worry about all this ground to cover to protect the quarterback's blind side. Generally, you're working in a twosome combination in most scenarios. The guard's working with the center on a combination block, or the guard's working with the tackle. But all of them require the type of athlete that can mentally process a lot of information quickly. They got to be able to mentally process a lot of different defensive fronts and be able to respond and execute a blocking scheme without very much notice at all. This stuff all happens in seconds. And then they got to be physically equipped enough to execute those things. So it's an interesting position because it's really one of the only ones that those five guys or six guys you're playing with a tight end or whatever your scheme calls for, it takes a lot of time working together to be able to execute it, because you can have five guys that, one-on-one look like on film they beat their guy, but if they haven't executed the entire scheme collectively together the way it's supposed to be executed as a combination blocking scheme, the play can fail. So most other positions, if you win your one-on-one matchup, it's considered a win. But offensive line generally have to win as a collective group for the play to succeed. Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned Booger McFarland, back in our article that we did for 78 Magazine in 2015. And was that the toughest assignment that you had?
Yeah, Booger, he was a doozy. Of course, he was a senior at LSU, and I was a first-year starter, sophomore guard. And man, I remember going into that game, and I had earned the starting job, but I'm still figuring this out. And I like to say we played them in Baton Rouge that year, and that was that was the original rally in Death Valley because they beat us for 58 minutes. And somehow we came down to the last 2 minutes, and Booker had, I don't know how many tackles. I like to say that I single-handedly helped him win Defensive Player of the Year that year. So I'd had the toughest 58 minutes of my career, and we come down to like 2 or 3 crazy circumstance plays, and we get out of there with a win. And so I'm just elated that we got out of there with a win.
This was the Zhao 2-touchdown pump.
Yep, Quincy Jackson.
Yeah,
ran the. It was crazy how we got the ball back, and as an athlete, no matter what point you are in the game, you never want to say it's over until it's over. But this one felt over, and so I've already got my gear unbuckled. And for those of you who don't know, when you get your game jersey on, it takes a team of people to get that stuff on and off of you. So once you've got your gear unstrapped, it's not like, I just got to buckle back up. I think we got an onside kick, and I've got my shoulder pads unbuckled, and I think I have my gloves off, and they're Velcroed to my face mask. We get the ball back, like, unexpectedly. So we got to run out there. So I don't have any of my stuff buckled up. I'm trying to get my gloves back on. And then wham, bam, Andrew, Quincy Jackson, touchdown. Okay. And then they throw the ball. We get an interception. I'm kind of probably juggling up the timeline series of events, but it was just bam, bam, bam. All of a sudden we got, 2 opportunities in the last 2 minutes, run the same play again. Same guy catches it over the same defensive back, and we walk out of there with a win. And so it was crazy. But it wasn't a real fun film review for any of us. I mean, we're excited because we got out of there with a win, but we probably shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. And so, we had to look at it, like, all right, we're going to pay attention to these first 58 minutes. This is what we're going to focus on, and not the Hail Mary solution that got us out of there with a W.
Was he talking to you the whole time?
No, he wasn't a talker.
He was just whipping you.
He was just whipping me.
Yeah.
And anybody else he wanted to, wherever he lined up, he was just a ball player, man.
What do you do in that instance? I mean, like when you're just matched up against a guy that's just that night they're just superior. I mean, like you just do all you can do. I mean, you try not to worry about it.
Well, you do all you can do, and I think as a coach, Coach Callaway did a good job. I mean, he knows what he's got with a guy like me, a sophomore.
So he's watching you individually and trying to kind of coach you to figure out how to stop the guy.
Right, and then as the game goes on, they're going to figure out what we can do and what we can't do. And so, if Booger's lined up on Redmill here, and we're not going to be able to run, a base block at Booger, off tackle, time after time after time.
Do you take that personally when you hear stuff like that? Like,
no, run toss right. Let's go toss right.
Yeah.
And so as the game goes on, you gotta figure out your matchups. And hey, don't get me wrong, they moved Booger around. Everybody across the front had their fill of Booger that night. It just felt personal when it was happening when it's happening to you. But it's a great learning experience because hey, everybody's going to have their turn in the barrel, and you got to have it to be able to take the next step. And you get through a game like that, and you realize, okay, if I'm going to compete in this league, I got to figure out how to beat the guys like that. And so it's a learning experience, and so it's just part of the evolution of your game. You got to go against somebody that can kick your tail every now and then to figure out what you got to do to be able to kick their tail down the road.
I've never really thought about those, just the O-line coaching individually. I mean, it's almost like it's just a thankless job that you guys had. I mean, I know.
It feels pretty thankless.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get the accolades. You hear about like quarterbacks taking their offensive line out for a steak dinner and things like that. Hopefully not in Fayetteville, but I mean, but did you feel that way? Did you feel like that? It's a little bit of a thankless job.
I don't know that we or I felt that, more than people from the outside that say that. You say, well, you feel like, well, I mean, yeah, sort of, But when you score,
right.
It's such a it's such a feeling of elation. It's like we did it. Because that Sean's not getting he's not getting in the end zone unless we do our job. So, I don't know that the guys that play that position necessarily feel that like like other folks apply it to them, you know, and that's part. It goes back to the mentality of players at different positions. Not everybody can play that position. I mean, obviously from a size standpoint, but just the psyche of all players are not the same, and I think it takes a real special kind of person to be willing to play that position.
What makes somebody great at that position?
Well, I mean, I think you've got to have the ultimate team concept, in your mind. Like you're taking a job that, all the work you put in, everything you do, every snap you take, every sacrifice you make is it's geared towards the result for the team, not for the result of your own personal act.
Let me say this. Let me back up a little bit and say maybe it's not thankless, but maybe it doesn't go as noticed as other positions. Maybe it doesn't get the accolades and the pageantry of other. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
And where other positions like running back or wide receiver, those guys, they want the ball. They want to get in the end zone. That's how that's their psyche, their mentality. You couldn't play if they had the physical capabilities to play offensive line. You couldn't just take that psyche of a player and plug them into guard,
right, and
expect them to be happy about it. It's just the difference in personality, I think, of an athlete.
Let's move on to 99. I mean, what an incredible year. Obviously, the highlights of that season are beating Florida twice, but another great moment was, winning at Auburn for the first time ever. So I want to start with Florida. You go into Gainesville. I mean, I remember that morning. I remember that morning. You go in there and you just get a win in one of the biggest, most hostile venues in the country, particularly at that time, against Spurrier. What was going on with the team's mentality that day? It just seems like y'all weren't going to be denied.
Yeah, that team was special for a lot of reasons. We talked about the probation situation and really that 99 season, that should have been the culmination of the negative impacts of probation. Because that, my class, were juniors. If most of the guys took a red shirt. So by the time you get to this point in our careers, that's your junior, senior class that was so handicapped by numbers, by probation. So it was 180 degrees from what it was supposed to be. That was supposed to be the year that the penalty did what it was supposed to do. And we just didn't allow it to happen. But, up to that point, we had marginal success. We'd lost a lot of games, more than, any Alabama team in recent history. And, we came back in 98 and had made a bowl game, some improvement, but nobody was expecting this team to really contend. And we had just come off a loss to La Tech, and it was very deflating because we felt like we had something special, but we had not won to the level that Alabama had won, so we weren't necessarily as confident as we could be. So we're still trying to figure out what it was like to be a good team or a winning team.
Was that Tim Rattay? I'm losing my mind.
Tim Rattay was the quarterback, but he was not the quarterback that threw the touchdown.
Okay.
I can't even remember what the guy's name was. I didn't even realize that Rattay didn't throw a touchdown until like 10 years later.
Yeah.
He'd gotten hurt.
Yeah.
And this guy came in and threw a bomb and beat us, and it was, but that loss, had that not happened to us, I don't think any of what happened the rest of the season would have ever happened. And so we kind of have this polarizing moment, that, we're not going to let this kill our season. And so,
did y'all have a team meeting after that La Tech game and kind of circle the wagons?
We did. Chris Samuels and Sean Alexander, kind of circled the wagons. And it was a kind of a rallying cry to say, hey, we know what we got here. Let's not let it slip away without showing the rest of the country how good we can be.
So they were policing the team. I mean, pretty much that same, player leadership.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. That all came from the players, and Cornelius Griffin was a big part of that. We had a really good core group of leaders on that team, kind of emerged through all this, and so we get to Florida week. In Florida, I can't remember what the record was. They hadn't lost in 30-something games at home. None of us had ever played in Gainesville. We knew the environment was a tough place to play. And we got on the plane, and I really believe I think we traveled 70 guys to conference away games. But, I think every guy on that plane believed we could win. And literally nobody in the country thought we could win. I mean, every media pundit out there that's covering it, I can't remember what the spread was, but, nobody gave us a chance. And so to go down there and do it in the way we did, in the 2 overtimes and in a hostile environment, and just, a team that could take a shot and never give up and just keep answering every time and walk out of there with a victory. That was a big moment for that team, because it kind of solidified what we believed. We are good, and we can be good, and we can compete with anybody on any level, on any scale. So it was a very polarizing moment for that team when, just a week prior, it looked like it could have been just 1998 repeat, And then nobody really gives you credit in the SEC championship game.
No. Even then you're an underdog.
Even though we had this good run down the stretch there, I think a lot of the folks were waiting to see, waiting to see us revert back to, mediocre 1998 team. And we just kept showing up every Saturday and kept getting it done. And, the big deal when it came to the SEC championship was, well, you can't beat these guys twice. It's impossible.
You're not going to beat Spurrier twice.
You're not going to beat Spurrier. Nobody's going to beat anybody twice, but especially these guys.
Well, back then you didn't play people twice.
Right. It was such a rarity.
Yeah.
But we had the level of confidence we had going into the Georgia Dome was different by this point in the season too. We weren't distracted by what the pundits were saying. Like, we knew what we did to these guys before, and we felt like we were better at this point in the year than we were when we faced them the first time. And we felt like we don't have anything to lose. They do. We're just going to go do what we've done all year long and prove everybody wrong again.
Now, remind me, y'all lost to Tennessee, though, right?
We did lose to Tennessee.
Was that the 21-7 game?
I can't remember the score. When it comes back to the details on these games, those are all foggy for me.
I think that was a 21-7.
But I do remember we had them. We should have won that game. We had them beat. We had them on the ropes. And Peerless Price returned a kickoff, like 98 yards or something like that. Take the game back over, and it just kind of broke and we were in Neyland Stadium, and they were going nuts. And so that was really the only let down through that stretch of the season where we couldn't take a gut shot and respond, and really we just kind of ran out of time.
Yeah.
And Sean was hurt. Sean Alexander was out that game. So that would have been, apropos time for Sean to show up and do something amazing when we needed him to, and he wasn't available.
But that wasn't a knock on your confidence. I mean, you still felt like going into the Florida game, hey, we got these guys.
Well, yeah, because along the stretch we had a nail biter at LSU that we won on the goal line stand at the end of the game. We go to Auburn. We'd never won there. And we take them out for the first time in Jordan Hare, and so by the time we're headed to the SEC championship game, we were feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
And by today's standards, it would have been less than stellar. We were 10-3 that year, but we hadn't won 10 games in a while. So everybody at this point going in, we've got 9 wins, but man, we're feeling, pretty high on the hog about where we're at and where we've come from. So yeah, we were still flying with some confidence, a lot of confidence.
One of the most frustrating losses to me, was that Michigan loss.
Yes.
Because you had such a great year, and it was so emotional. 99 was very emotional for the fans. I'm sure for y'all. Again, beating Florida twice. Those are 2 very emotional games, because you had the rivalry against Florida, and there was a lot of frustration in that rivalry from a fan standpoint, because Bama wins in '92, and then you can't really beat them the rest of the time in the SEC championship game. So winning twice in '99 was kind of a relief from all that. Then you have the big victory at Auburn, first time ever, like as you mentioned. But then you're up 28-14 in that Michigan game, and you end up losing to potentially the greatest quarterback, if not the greatest quarterback, in football history. But that was a frustrating loss.
Definitely. I didn't even watch that game until probably 10 years later, because I've
never watched it.
It's the bowl game, so once it's over, it's not like you show up tomorrow for film study. I mean, the season's over. We'll see you guys in a few weeks. And so we'd never reviewed it. And I went back and watched it. It came on ESPN Classics a few years ago, and so I watched it start to finish. And I forgot how handily we had control of the game in the first
dominate.
But Chris Samuels was out and didn't have him. And so it was like a merry-go-round at right and left tackle, trying to fill that void. And I think a big part of it too. Number one, nobody knew who Tom Brady was, but then everybody, we were kind of the litmus test for the Tom Brady effect. Everybody figured out that day who they had. And because he had not been kind of the full-time starter all year, they had Drew Henson, who was a baseball guy, and they really wanted Drew Henson to be the guy. And they would all year long get down by a couple of scores, and they'd put Tom Brady in there, and he'd come back and they'd eke out a win. And that's kind of how their season went. So he wasn't even part of our game plan review. You have that the Thursday or Friday before the game, and they highlight all the key players, and you do that as a team. And I don't know that his name even came up, but I believe they had 3 first-round draft picks on offense on that team, and then you had him. And but I think more than anything, Michigan took that game more seriously than we did, is what the end result boiled down to. We were elated to be playing in the Orange Bowl. We had come through everything we'd come through, and we're so elated to be going to Miami and playing in the Orange Bowl. And the way it was viewed then, your bowl game is like it's a reward, it's a vacation, and we had a great vacation in Miami. Michigan, they came down. They were there for 2 weeks, which was not normal. Most teams come down for a week of preparation on the bowl site. They were there for 2 weeks. They stayed way outside of town. There was only one night that we saw those guys out.
It was a business trip for them.
It was a business trip.
Wow.
And so, I think that was a learning experience for our guys to say, hey, Miami's a great town. It's fun. It's cool you're playing in the Orange Bowl, but the goal is to win it.
Yeah. Was Coach Dubose harder as a head coach or harder as an assistant coach?
Harder as an assistant coach, definitely. I think when he got the head job, there were aspects of the way he coached as an assistant that carried over, which I don't know that the other guys in the other positions were quite ready for that, but he had to kind of adapt his style, because now you're not coaching these 12 guys that you can drive like a hammer. Now you got to be able to coach. You're coaching, all 100 of these guys that are different psyches, different positions, and but it was still hard. You don't change that about a person in a night or a season or a couple of seasons.